The Angry Chicken is a production of amove.tv. Check out Amove TV for more podcasts covering Blizzard games. And for more of Jocelyn's gaming podcasts, visit jossplays.com. The Angry Chicken is brought to you by our legendary patrons over at patreon.com/TAC.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Legendary!
You beast Jaraxxus! You smell like a leper gnome! I knew it! So hot!
A podcast about Hearthstone and Battlegrounds. This is The Angry Chicken!
Greetings and welcome everyone to TAC, a brand new episode coming right at you. I'm Garrett Weinzerl, joined as always by Jocelyn Carney to bring you all the latest and greatest happenings around Hearthstone, be it standard or Battlegrounds, and maybe even a little single player this week because we got Book of Heroes hitting the game just yesterday, as a matter of fact, because we do indeed record the show on Wednesday. I am not saying that for your information, but to remind myself, because time has no meaning anymore.
Yeah, you were like, we record on Wednesdays. I'm like, what?
Listen, Joss, sometimes I just need to remind myself.
I know those feels.
Hard enough already when I started working full-time for myself in 2016. It's a lot harder in 2020. Yeah. Anyways, good to see you again, Joss. How's Hearthstone been treating you? I've been slowly plinking away with more Face Hunter games.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I've been spending a lot of time in Battlegrounds. I've been watching a lot. We're going to talk a little bit later about Masters Tour Montreal. But yeah, I watched a lot of Hearthstone this weekend and actually spent a significant chunk of time playing in single player this week because of the Jaina release. So I'm stoked to talk about that. I didn't think I was going to be, but
same.
It's pretty cool.
It's kind of neat. It's kind of neat. We'll talk about that in full when we get into news, which will be the first segment of the day. We are starting with news, not Battlegrounds, in case anyone's wondering. So all you Battlegrounds haters, you can know when to skip. Please listen to our sponsor reads. Unless you're a patron, you don't need to worry about it. Hey, speaking of patrons, and also in less than a week's time, everyone, Jocelyn, we have full details for our first Angriest Chicken Open tournament in quite a while. We are going to be doing it in Battlegrounds, utilizing the new custom lobby feature. And it's happening Friday, September 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We know time zones are hard. And it is there does not exist a time that is perfect for all time zones. So we're doing the one that we can actually moderate. So
well, yeah, normally we have done in the past, we've done tacos on the weekend, and yeah, we thought it would be nice to have a cool, chill hangout on a Friday night. So yeah. I'm excited about this. It's going to be a little bit smaller than our tacos in the past, just because I am going to be organizing all the brackets by hand, because there unfortunately is not yet a tool on Battlefy or Smash GG, which we have used for tacos in the past. So it's going to be an experiment, but I think a fun one.
yeah. It's it's going to be entirely done by hand. Basically, we're going to, I say we, most of you are going to have to hand key in these brackets and figure them out. But no, you and I will both be there throughout the night moderating things. I want to play in it. This is going to be the first taco that I'm going to take part in. So I'm going to enter the fray. I've also, nobody cares about this but me, but I feel like talking about it. I set up one of my old computers in the living room, and I'm kind of like excited to just like chill on the couch on a Friday night playing Battlegrounds and helping moderate this tournament. It's going to be a good time. So if you're interested in entering, as of this exact moment, today is the first day that signups are available, which means our $2 and up patrons are getting first access, first dibs on signing up. But first thing next week, we're going to open up that sign up sheet to everyone. So keep your eyes peeled to theangrychicken.com which will just portal you over to emove.tv because I don't have a separate website for the Angry Chicken. But we will be sure to have a post on the Angry Chicken blog, which, again, you can find at theangrychicken.com. Don't forget the in there. You're not going to, I don't know where angrychicken.com sends you, and I do not claim responsibility for whatever befalls you. I hope it's just Angry Poultry. I really do.
Yeah. Or maybe a restaurant. I'd be down for like a spicy chicken restaurant.
We have gotten a photo of like a Korean spicy chicken restaurant in Germany.
Yeah, I'm Googling it.
At least 17 times on Twitter. People like visit Germany, they see this Angry Chicken restaurant, they take a picture and they tweet it to us, and please don't stop, because every time it happens, it makes me smile. And when I go to Germany, I am going to seek this place out whenever the hell I actually end up in Germany. But yeah, so we're going to do 64 players, and we're going to top 4 moves on, basically. So we're bracketing 8-player lobbies, as strange as that sounds, but that's like the simplest way to kind of describe how we're going to run this tournament. Again, this is our first time trying to do a fun Battlegrounds tournament with our community. So we're going to kind of see how this goes. And if you make it to the final lobby, 4th through 2nd, we're going to be giving away a $20 BattleNet balance to 4th place finish through 2nd place finish, and a $40 BattleNet balance awarded to whoever wins it all, wins the final lobby. So best of luck to everybody. We will be playing this on the NA Hearthstone server, in case you're curious. But I'm really interested about this one, Joss, because even if you're playing from outside of your region, like worst case scenario, you're just working with half the amount of heroes in draft, which compared to folks who have wanted to take part in previous tacos where we did constructed, coming in fresh into an NA server, if you hadn't played on it before, you're at such a larger detriment than you are with something like Battlegrounds. So I'm really excited about like the accessibility factor of this.
Yeah. And I think that if, maybe in the future we'll do some kind of timings. It's a little bit more EU friendly because, I completely agree. Like the accessibility for people outside of North America is kind of more so than it is on the constructed side of things. And even if you're looking at, when we had the Wild Taco tournament as well, like, even again, you're talking about card collection things. So it's pretty easy to just jump over regions and play some Battlegrounds, because we're not like matching based on MMR or anything crazy like that. It's literally going to be random. So yeah, it's it should be a lot of fun, and it should be hopefully easy to enter and small enough to be only 64 cats that need herding, but we'll see how it goes.
Full details at the moment are up over at patreon.com/TAC for $2 patrons and up. And that'll go live for everyone start of next week. So keep your eyes peeled over at theangrychicken.com. Looking forward to playing some Battlegrounds with you all, and best of luck when we get there. But for now, Jocelyn, let's get into this week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone!
Masters Tour Online Montreal went down over the weekend, and we are going to talk about the results. So if you are still catching up on the VODs and don't want to be spoiled on who won, run away now. I would say 10 to 15 minutes is probably a safe bet.
Yep.
Probably a safe bet. If you hear us talking about Book of Heroes, back it up a little bit.
Yeah, I love that they're still calling these Master Tour, like, insert city name here, because it's just like, it's gonna be such a long time before we're actually going to cities again. Like, I appreciate the effort to keep us, grounded to, I guess, a time zone is really the reason for it. But
they're never gonna do it. But I love the idea that like they'll try baby steps, and they're gonna do like Masters Tour, extremely remote location, completely outside. Like Masters Tour, this particular park that has a lot of picnic benches and surprisingly good Wi-Fi access.
Yeah.
It just flows off the tongue. But yeah, for the moment it is completely online, which, we were just talking about accessibility for our own like little community Battlegrounds tournament. You want to talk about accessible? This is the most accessible like competitive Hearthstone has really ever been.
Yeah, and it's actually really great to see because, I mean, time zone issues aside, we've got a lot of players that wouldn't necessarily have traveled to EU and NA events from like APAC and China and vice versa for a lot of these Masters tours. And we're seeing, like, for instance, our reigning world champion, Lion out of China, made it to the top 8 of Masters Tour Montreal, which she probably, like, at least I don't ever really remember a big APAC or Chinese like presence when we were doing like Dream Hacks and all the other, you know, NA events and stuff. So these Master Tour events are very much like almost like previews of like world championships and stuff, and very much seem to represent a lot of the like worldwide Hearthstone talent as opposed to being very region specific. So yeah, it was really cool to see a lot of like players we may not necessarily be familiar with as, you know, people and viewers living in North America, seeing them participate in Hearthstone competition, like in our time zone and everything else live. So, I mean, I know it sucked for them because it was like, you know, 3 and 4 in the morning, or, you know, totally 12 and 13 hour time differences. But
yeah, I would imagine a decent amount of them too are like younger. And if they're anything like I was in my like college years, like time was irrelevant. I was up all night.
Especially now, like we've already talked about.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Absolutely. Not that, I mean, Hearthstone of all the games that are played competitively probably has like the lowest bar for like an age cap. You know, this isn't a game like StarCraft where you hit like 22 and you're considered old for the competition because your Twitch reflexes just aren't quite there anymore. But still, yeah, it's the kind of thing I look at. I'm like, well, if I was back in like my early 20s, I'd been like, wait, I need to stay up till 4 a.m. to play in this online tournament. I wouldn't have given it much of an extra thought.
Yeah, I feel like the ones that had to like wake up at like 7 or 8 a.m. are probably the ones we have to worry about more than the ones playing at 2 a.m. Like 2 a.m. is par for the Hearthstone course.
Yeah. We call that the one more game factor.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really cool to see her playing again and competing, and, you know, again, with it being so accessible to so many different players, it was really, really cool to see the collection of people that we got to play. And I mean, the participation level in these tournaments again, as well, like we've been talking about it, I feel like with most of these Master Tour online events, but we're like over 300 players every time. So it's a very large pool of very talented players, and it's nice to see them.
Yeah, it makes me kind of think like, why don't we just keep it this way? Even when we return,
I had the same thought. I was like, why are we making people? Because that was one of the big things when we were talking about like prize pools back when we used to do these in person, and, you know, all the different considerations of, you know, the problem with Masters Tour when we were doing them. I guess that was 2018. When there was like a Masters Tour event like every other weekend. And it was like, if you were at the peak of your Hearthstone game, you were literally traveling all around the world. And that was really wearing players out, because like if you were Hunter Ace, you were literally like in APAC and then all the way over to EU and then NA and back to EU and, you know, like every other weekend sort of deal. And yeah, that was really wearing players out. But you could have a system like that. And I think, you know, the more Masters Tour events we have, the better. And I'll talk about the prize pool and GM selection in a minute. But if we just keep these events to, you know, online, but casted, then damn, yeah, I'm in. This is a much better system.
Yeah, I mean, it's an online game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so like, I like the idea of the accessibility factor for sure. I mean, Hearthstone's esports have changed in a notable way every freaking year. So like,
yeah,
you know, who knows what the future holds, right?
To be fair, the change to online this year wasn't really the esports team's fault. But
that's not what I was inferring. But yes, just very good thing to point out for sure. But it just kind of feels like, why not do that? I mean, if we do return to a traditional event style where they're hosting it at a venue or whatever, like to a certain degree, it's like, I don't know, just bring the talent out, like do the production in person and maybe some of your more famous players, but like
I don't even think you need that, because the other piece of this is that they're not even doing like player interviews or anything anymore. So there's no reason to worry about, like even quality of player microphones or cameras at this point. Like they have most players on camera unless the internet craps out. Then they have, like press photos as an option to put in that space. And then, without the interviews, there's really no reason why we couldn't just shift to an online model all the time. And then because I think that just having our like worldwide Hearthstone competitions as the way that we, work our way towards a world champion is just a better way to do it than having the regions so split up until it's time to bring everybody together for the world championship. So I like seeing all of the regions compete against each other like throughout the year.
Yeah, I agree entirely. It's to me, like if it was just me like making the call, I would kind of look at it and be like, well, it's significantly less money to do this. And that anyone can really play in theory.
Yeah.
The barrier to entry is so much lower. So
which is also one of the big things, like in terms of barrier to entry into the Masters Tour. That's also one of the things that they've always wanted people to feel like they can do. Like if I sit down in front of my computer and play Hearthstone at home, then I should be able to become world champion. Like they've always wanted that sort of feeling when you sit down and play Hearthstone, that, the I can do it too sort of mentality, which again, doing all of these online just makes that closer and closer to reality, right? Yeah. That I can just sit in my living room and, I'm a couple steps away from world champion. Obviously, it's not that easy, but, the barriers to entry there, like traveling, being away from family or whatever, and like real life commitments, traveling to Hearthstone events, if you're really trying to compete, then, going to these different Masters Tour events, you basically have to attend a Masters Tour until you win if you eventually want to become a Grandmaster, right? So it's and that's kind of one of the next point I wanted to talk about is the casters were talking a whole lot this weekend because this is the first Masters Tour I remember. Now, this is also the first Masters Tour in a while that I've watched live, so that might have been the difference. I might have just been like skipping over it. But this is the first Masters Tour in a while that I remember that had an actual like leaderboard for who was going to be promoted into Grandmasters. And so the prize pool of Masters Tour Online Montreal was very much a talking point, because the prize pools, like whoever earns the most in the Masters Tour is going to be promoted into Grandmasters. So I was like, when they were talking about this and showing all the differences and everything else, I was like, wow, there actually is a pretty big difference between like even like a first and second place finish or a second and third place finish. It's like winning a Masters Tour event basically guarantees you a spot in Grandmasters in the next season. And it's really, really hard to catch up if there has been a winner in your region. Like it really very much rewards like one-time winnings as opposed to like seasonal consistency. And I think that comes down to two, like we have I don't know if I want to say so few events, because I'm kind of comparing it in my mind to 2018 when there was, 3 events in a month type deal. And so it seems like we don't have nearly as many Masters Tour events anymore. But there's just, it becomes very difficult to catch up. And I mean, like a top 8 finish should be so, like if you can hit top 8 in every Masters Tour that you compete in, then I feel like that's worthy of Grandmasters versus, maybe somebody who wins a Masters Tour event, which is a feat, but it just seems like those should be like much closer together than they are in reality in terms of prize winnings.
It's gonna be such a boring podcast because I completely agree with you. Like I have nothing else to add. It's like, yes, we should have. It's from a spectator standpoint. A consideration should be made for how easy it is to follow, and I really don't think Hearthstone esports has ever been particularly easy to follow from that type of a standpoint of like, who the hell is in the upper echelon? How did they get there? Who's on the bubble of making it in? Obviously, Grandmasters itself, they have a great website. You can go and see what the current standings are and who's like at risk of falling out and who has no chance in hell of even being at risk.
But everything below that is so obscured.
And to a certain degree, I think it's a bit of the nature of the beast, right? Like, are people in the NFL complaining that they don't know who has a good chance of, I guess they do because that's college football. Never mind. That's a terrible example. Yeah.
You just talked yourself out of your own argument.
Yeah. But of course, I mean, again, it also depends on like your buy-in, right? If you like both college football and the NFL, then you're probably tapped in. But there's also like, my wife, Katie, she loves NFL. She couldn't give less of a crap about college football. So like when new players shows up, she's just like, oh, cool. Thank God Jay Cutler is no longer on the Bears. Maybe we have a chance of winning. But it's an I don't, because like I'm not big into like traditional sports. I'm a big fan of drift racing. No one should be surprised. I make car references every freaking podcast I do. But like they have like Pro 1 and Pro 2, and Pro 2 is pretty easy to actually watch. I have no idea. Like I have no clue who's like on the cusp of making it into Pro 1, and it's because I just want to see the most ridiculous cars do their thing, which is happening in Pro 1, not in Pro 2. So I don't know. It kind of depends, right? Like I think a defense to a certain degree needs to be made, because the only reason we're even aware of this is that Masters Tour itself gets a noteworthy spotlight and decent production value to where we're even watching it in the first place. And also I'm with you on, I also noticed the more infographics than I remember from any other Masters Tour, which I thought was a good addition to the production. I thought it helped tell the story more. And obviously it brought this to more people's attention, but yeah, maybe that's the middle ground. Maybe just having that narrative as part of the production focus of the talent that's, Frodan and whoever else happens to be sitting behind the desk, tell that story. Because even if it was a more nuanced point system, that's something that could be figured out in the script.
Well, that's the thing, right? As long as the system is easy enough to follow for the casters, that they can then explain it and follow the threads and create the storylines around the players over the course of a season, then I think that's fine. Like my issue is not as much with the lack of information, though it has been traditionally in the past very difficult to figure out who's actually going to be promoted to Grandmasters. But it's more so along the lines of right now, it just feels like they're rewarding one-off finishes way more heavily than they reward consistent high finishes, which I think that maybe needs to be looked at. And I think has been called to the forefront with them shifting the focus on the, who's going to be promoted and, what's everybody's prize earnings like and blah, 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 blah. It really starts to show the disparity between those different levels. And even, like I said, between getting to the semifinals or getting to the finals is even in just one Masters Tour event seems to be the difference between being a Grandmaster or not. But if you make it to the semifinals of 4 Masters Tours, to me, that's a Grandmaster level performance. There's a lot of Grandmasters that don't even do that.
Yeah, and is traditionally what we think of as the quantifier of a good player in a card game. Because, this conversation comes back around multiple times a year, but here we are again. If you are the type of person that has that gets into the conversations about RNG and how much of it belongs in a card game and how much of it doesn't, that conversation happens in every card game because RNG exists in every card game to more or less degrees depending on the game, but it is still there and it is still a factor. And so if those games are played competitively like Hearthstone is, we typically look at performance over a long period of time to tell us who is the best players. Who are the best players? Sorry, terrible English.
It's fine.
So yeah, and so yeah, at the simplest level. Now that we had that nuanced conversation, the simplest level is: does this system seem fair? I think you and I are falling on the no side. It does not seem fair. It does not seem
it's not really unfair necessarily. They're just focusing on rewarding a part of the game that I think maybe should have less of a reward than consistency over time. But you brought up randomness too, which is something that I did want to touch on as well, because I don't know how much of Montreal you watched this weekend, but between Priest and Mage, I mean, you've talked extensively about how much you hate Puzzle Box, but oh my God, the level of randomness in Priest games and in Mage games, and when it was a Priest Mage showdown or, you know, Priest mirrors, Mage mirrors, as someone who normally likes crazy big random swings, like I think I'm finally at the point that I think that it's gone too far. It's swung too far into the random side of things, because these games were ridiculous. Like, I mean, I'm talking about like players getting multiple like evocations after evocations after evocations, and it's just like so many random things with the Priest Galakron and getting the minion, the mind render to swap hands and stuff. Like I think it has gotten to the point where those random decks are performing too well. And I do think that you should be rewarded as a top player. And I've said this since the start of Hearthstone, and I still believe it. Top players should be able to adapt to randomness and to make good decisions based on what's presented in front of them. And I think some randomness in the game is good. But I mean, this has gone, I think, way too far, to the point that it wasn't fun to watch. Like, I was like, what even is happening right now? It's like the casters don't know what's going on. The players don't know what's going on. They're trying to do the best that they can in the 70 seconds or whatever that they're given. And I was just like, man, I don't feel like deck building has necessarily been rewarded as much as it should, because so much of the players' hands has been randomized over the course of this game that it's just like, why not just hit the random deck button and go? Like, it just seemed like, I think I'm finally in the camp of we've swung too far down that path. So I don't know, Garrett, did you see a lot of the Priest and Mage shenanigans this weekend?
I watched a lot of it after the fact on VOD, so I kind of just went past it because I'm a little bored with it.
Yeah.
And it feels unique to me because it's not something I'm seeing as much in my games at home. You know, way back when I was very vocal about my distaste for the OG RNG madness, Yogg Saron, we were seeing it in our games at home rather frequently. But we are in a healthy meta with extreme class diversity across the board. So it's not like you're running into Mage every single game. It's not like you're running into Priest every single game. Your mileage may vary, as we talked about with Hat last week. But, you know, it's something that really strikes me as like an esport spectating concern only, which to me feels unique. There are times where I watch more esports than others. So I'm sure someone could write in and inform us of other times where it has felt this way. But for me right now, this feels like the first time this has really been the case for me. And yet we've had consistent pros who are like kind of consistently lucky, right? Like Pavel was a good example where
famously,
like, Paveling book was a meme, but also I think unfair. I think Pavel is an extremely good and consistent player even outside of that. He just had a string of meme worthy luck. But still, I don't want to beat the puzzle. I'm beating around this bush because I don't want to beat the puzzle box dead horse anymore. Like, I am just over it, and I'm over Priest.
Oh yeah, no, and I mean, like, I don't necessarily want to talk too much on this point. I just wanted to say, you know, as someone who has generally been down with the big crazy moments with the Yogg play, with the puzzle box play or whatever, it now seems like since Scholomance, I always mess it up, and now I can't remember which one it is. Okay, Scholomance has come out. It seems like a lot of like the 1-mana spells and stuff, and the Cobalt Spellkin that generates them has created just a lot of craziness that maybe should be dialed back a little bit. Even if they just change like evocation to like 2, that would be great. To get it out of that pool of randomly generated spells. But anyways, I mean, that's maybe a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But there was one more thing, speaking of priests and mages, that I wanted to talk about while we're talking about Masters Tour Online, and that was the bug. So there's the visual bug. This was like a really big controversy because the visual bug was reported before the tournament that when you play Galakron, sometimes as your hero takes damage, the Galakron armor, so that 5 Galakron armor, will actually remain on your character. It's a visual bug. It's not actually there. And what happened on day 3 was that in a priest mirror, Cagnetta actually missed lethal because the bug was showing that there was armor, and he didn't realize that he actually had lethal, and the casters didn't realize it until after. And I think it was like when it flipped back to his opponent, or when it flipped back to him, maybe even like a turn or two later, they were like, wait a minute, he took bombs to the face. I don't think he should have any armor. Like, I think it's the bug. And yeah, so it's very much, it was known ahead of the tournament, but the game itself was pretty crazy. They were flipping hands back and forth again with the random generation. They got multiple mind renders on both sides. Things were flipping all over the place. And in all the craziness of the game, Cagnetta didn't realize that the visual bug was actually there. So, I mean, on the one hand, there's the argument that if he is playing at the highest Hearthstone level, he should be keeping track and should know what his opponent's health total is, and that the opponent had taken a bomb and that the armor shouldn't be there anymore. But at the same time, it's like, your game should not be bugged to show inaccurate health totals on heroes in the middle of the Masters Tour.
Yeah. I mean, Cagnetta went on to win the series, right?
He did go on to win, which is why it's not as, I guess, controversial as it could potentially have been. But he did lose that game, and then, yeah, went on to win the series. But
yeah, that's kind of where I fall on like what I think is just kind of a realist approach. Like, bugs are going to happen. This isn't going to be the last bug we see. I don't think. It would be nice, but I don't think it's going to happen. And so, you know, it had Cagnetta not ended up winning the series, this would have been the thing where I've been like, we need a judge's call and maybe a mulligan on that game, or maybe a way to reset to that state in the game, or what have you, or just call it in Cagnetta's favor. But it luckily didn't come down to that. And that's just kind of where it kind of begins and ends for me, is that bugs in games are a thing. They're going to happen. And if it impacts esports in a meaningful way, a call should be made. And in this case, a call didn't need to be made because the affected player ended up winning anyway.
yeah, and I mean, I'm really interested to know, because I guess it's just for my own curiosity, because we haven't really had something like this impact a game so heavily before. But I'm interested to know, like, if he had lost the series, like, would they just have put the whole broadcast on hold? Would it have been, you know, awarded as a win later? Like, what? I don't even know. It would have been a crazy hard judge a call. Yeah, like, I don't even know how you would deal with this situation. So,
because players have legitimately lost lethal with no bugs before.
Yeah.
And so you have to make a judgment call of, like, would Cagnetta have definitely 100% beyond the shadow of a doubt.
Obvious. Yeah. It was a really, really obvious lethal. If he had known that his opponent had 4 health instead of 9 health, because on 4 health, it was like Shadow Madness attack win. Like, but on, with 9 health, it was like, okay, well, I could do that and I could deal like 5 or 6 damage, but I don't have lethal. So I need to figure out how best to win this game in a couple turns or whatever. So yeah, it was a very, very obvious lethal had the health total been shown properly. So it didn't, in the end, it didn't matter, but
have them enter a Battlegrounds lobby. Highest finished ends up getting the win for the game in question. That's how they should handle this.
Perfect.
Love and then we've come, before we move out of this, obviously we haven't even mentioned who won. Congratulations to Frenetic, the champion of Masters Tour Online Montreal, a Spanish player for Team Crazy Crew Esports, who I was not familiar with before this event.
It sounds vaguely familiar. Feel like it might be, I know them from Rocket League.
Maybe, but big congrats to Frenetic. I like seeing, you know, new names winning major tournaments. It's kind of the point of opens, right? Is to try and inject some new blood, and that's what's happening here. So, big congratulations. Now let's shift gears and talk about single player modes, because we got some new single player content this week with Chapter 1 of the Book of Heroes. It is now in the game. As we laid out last week, if you want to hear more about this, let's catch last week's episode. But the long and short of it is that we are going to get a Book of Heroes for every single class in the game over the course of the next year. And it's going to be 8 boss mini adventures focusing on each hero of each class. And we're starting off with Mage, which means we're starting off with Jaina, which means you and I are both probably a little more interested in this than we otherwise would be, because I know we are both Jaina lore nerds. And I was expecting to just not even try this. PvE in Hearthstone has historically not been my favorite thing. I did really enjoy the last 2 dungeon runs that they did last year, and was really bummed when they got away from it at the end of the year with Descent of Dragons. Mm-hmm. But I was like, whatever. I should, if for nothing else, like I do the Angry Chicken, I should go just see what it's like and give it a try.
Which was my attitude as well. I was like, well, it's out the day before we record the podcast. I should at least poke my head in and see what this is like, because I had a very similar reaction that I like dungeon runs, and when they moved away from it, I was kind of like, not my jam. But I will say that I don't think a dungeon run style single player would have fit this very well, because this is very, very story oriented in a way that we haven't really seen Hearthstone do before. And it kind of makes me, as I was playing through this Jaina story, I was like, I don't understand why this wasn't in the game from the get-go, because it basically takes Jaina's story in not only World of Warcraft, but like the Warcraft RTSs that came before the MMO. It takes her whole story and kind of tells you her background. And it's so interesting. It even touches on stuff from like the Arthas novel. I'm like, this is telling Jaina lore better than World of Warcraft.
Yeah, and if you're newer to Hearthstone, or you just don't remember because it's not that important of a distinction, but Hearthstone used to have the subline Heroes of Warcraft. It dropped that a year or 2 ago. We just dropped it from our intro voiceover because got someone new to do it. Thanks, Brode. And you're right. Like this feels like Heroes of Warcraft. Like here is Jaina's story. Because I got into, so here's my personal experience with it, which was like, all right, I'll just go play the first one to see what it's like. I'll probably get bored and move on. And so the first one is like Jaina as a student, trying to convince Antonidas to teach her.
On Antonidas,
And so it turns into a Hearthstone duel. You beat him, and obviously Antonidas is like, I will teach you, yada yada yada, and then I'll die.
You're so talented.
And then I'll go die in Dalaran.
God, spoiler alert.
I'm sorry. You've only had more than
it's been like literally
17 years,
since
18
Antonidas
years?
Died in Dalaran. Yeah,
it died in Warcraft 3. Y'all had enough time. You had enough time. I'm gonna spoil Citizen Kane next. I apologize. It ended, and then on to the next one. It's Kael'thas, and I'm like, damn it! I actually kind of want to see what they do with this, because I know a little bit of this lore, and I want to see how they translate it into Hearthstone. And sure enough,
insert awkward love triangle here.
Oh yeah, Kael'thas came off kind of creepy. Also, didn't sound like Kael'thas to me.
Book too.
The voice sounded off. It didn't sound like Kael'thas to me. I haven't gone and looked up if it's the same voice actor or not, but I play Kael'thas a lot in Heroes of the Storm, and he just sounded different.
Yeah,
he didn't have the pompous talk as much.
Yeah, he was always pretty creepy, and especially when you factor in the fact that he's an elf and Jaina's a human. And when Jaina went to Dalaran, she was like a teenager and he was like hundreds of years old. And it's very like Edward Bella, where you're like, okay, if you think about this too much, it's really disgusting.
It's hard to do immortal romances in fantasy.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's something that ages worse and worse, it feels like, every month as we as a society evolve in our
kind of realize how gross that is.
Of power dynamics. Yeah. It's a little weird. Yep. And then again, one of my greatest shames as a raging Arthas fanboy is that I still haven't read the Arthas novel.
Garrett.
I wasn't aware that I continued played through the Arthas thing. I love it just, to me, because I haven't read the novel, Arthas just seems like a basic abusive boyfriend.
Yeah, he's really bad, Garrett. I hate to burst your Arthas bubble, but yeah.
And, like, I found it just kind of like, and I don't want this to come off as crass, but I found it amusing because it just seemed like paint by numbers abusive boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Just like, oh, baby, I'm sorry. Come back, baby. I'll change. I promise. Like that's kind of what it felt like to a point where it's like, yeah, this was an unhealthy relationship. This totally works.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the novel is obviously told more from his perspective than her perspective, but yeah, still, he does not come across that great. So,
well, I mean, we also know where he ended up, so that should come as no surprise to anyone that maybe didn't have the best moral compass.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't just the calling of
Garrett.
Stockholm.
We need to have a much, much longer, more in-depth Arthas lore podcast sometime in the very near future with the events that are going on currently in Warcraft, because I have so many thoughts. But anyways, yeah, so getting like to kind of go back to the Jaina stuff here. I played through, I think, the 6 out of 8 bosses, and I stopped playing because I'll be honest, I didn't enjoy the actual like mechanics of the battles, like of the fights. It was just very basic. And again, you didn't get to make your decks or anything like that. You didn't get to do anything kind of crazy out of the ordinary, which again, kind of makes me think this is stuff that would have been really cool from a Hearthstone mechanics perspective if it was included with the game, like from the get-go. But it was still story-wise really, really interesting because, again, they went back to the well of some of those Warcraft RTSs and told basically Jaina's origin story and talked so much about like when she met Thrall and how they had to cleanse like the orcs and Grom from the influence of the demons. Like, it's very much the RTS story, and it's all like voiced and it's explained, and you have kind of like Jaina now as like a narrator, and then when you're actually in the encounters, you have like Jaina at that point in time. So you've got these almost like 2 different Jaina perspectives being presented to you as well, which was also really interesting. So, I mean, I thought they did a really great job from the story perspective. I got bored of the mechanics, but I'll go back and finish it because the story was good enough to keep me engaged.
Yeah, it's kind of where I ended too. It reminded me a lot of the Demon Hunter prologue, like big time.
Yeah,
but it's not a knock against it because like I know you and I time and time again say, hey, single player isn't for us. But like this, you can tell like the people that worked on this are big Warcraft nerds, like lore wise, because it really shines through. And as someone who does like Warcraft lore, especially older Warcraft lore, like this really resonated with me. So I think going forward for me, Book of Heroes is going to be something that I may skip ones for characters I'm less interested in, but I definitely see myself playing more than just Jaina's.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I will play them based on not like Hearthstone classes that I like, but based on characters that those classes are. Like, I'll probably play a lot of like the priest when Anduin's story comes out, because I'm sure that's going to be super interesting.
And that's when I'm definitely skipping.
Fair enough. But yeah, the other piece of this too is that there's the Scholar Jaina bundle that is available only until September 21st. So you've got like 5 days as of time of recording if you actually want to go and buy this bundle. It includes the Scholar Jaina hero skin and 5 mage class packs. So the Scholar Jaina hero doesn't actually come with like any new voice lines or any new hero power or anything like that. It's just a static portrait skin. But then, yeah, also those 5 mage class packs. So if you do want some mage cards, you can go and pick them up and grab them. I'm so sad though, because the Scholar Jaina hero portrait comes from like the very first encounter when she's going up against Antonidas, and I think it's supposed to be like Jaina when she first goes to like magic school in Dalaran, and then after that first Antonidas encounter, as soon as she goes into the encounters with like Kael'thas and Arthas and stuff, the hero portrait there is so much better. I was like, I want that one. I want like big ornate shoulders and like poofy sleeve Jaina. Like I don't love the Scholar skin, I'll be honest.
It's kind of, I mean, Scholar skin to me looks like, I believe is new art. It looks like new art that was made specifically for this, whereas the one that comes after, which is her kind of in her classic Jaina armor, but clearly younger, and I believe she's on a boat. Like it looks like she like may have been like crossover, you know, Coltiran times.
Coltiris Jaina,
which looks to me like reused art. I can't place where it was from exactly, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went digging through the old TCG art if it wasn't a piece of art from that, because it kind of looks to me like original World of Warcraft TCG art. Which doesn't say I don't like it. I really do like it. You know me, I'm in the camp of more alternate art. Just keep it coming. You know, why limit yourself?
That's the other thing that I'm a little bit confused is like why they didn't just add the Jaina portraits that they used in the single player as either part of the mage bundle or as a reward when you finished or something. Like, you know, you play all the way through and you get Coltiran Jaina and Scholar, like it's already in the game all set as a Jaina hero portrait because you play her in the single player. So
I'm sure someone like someone might be listening who actually like knows what goes into like, unlocking portraits. And it's like, it's not that easy, but who knows, right? I lean that way. Like I can understand, and I have no idea if this is what their thinking was, but I could understand the line of thinking of, it's free content. You know, we're not going to give away portraits for free content. I can understand that thinking, but I wish that wasn't.
Well, yeah, but they could have added it again because they didn't put any voice lines or change the skin on the hero power or anything. Like it's literally if you buy Scholar Jaina, you get the artwork and that's it. So that's why I'm saying like they just add the other because maybe she has other hero portraits for the last couple of encounters, but so far I've seen Scholar Jaina and I've seen the, like you said, Pirate Jaina, we'll call her. Those are the two kind of skins that they made use of in the single player. So if I was to buy the Jaina bundle, it would have been cool if they had included both pieces of art because a little bit more value. I have seen a lot of Twitter and Reddit and Discord posts that have basically said like, there's not a whole lot of value here, which, you know, in comparison to some of the others, like Illyria that had, you know, new voiceovers, new hero powers and all the rest of it, you know, there's not a whole lot to this Jaina hero skin. So I can see the argument of maybe this bundle could have used a little bit of added value. Now you got 5 mage class packs, but yeah.
Yeah. And you know,
there's a value discussion to be had.
All of that might also be playing into my positive reception of the like narrative itself is because my expectations were extremely low. And I think part of that came into not having an exciting reward at all for finishing the Book of Heroes. And also it's subjective, but I do think the new portrait is a little basic.
Yeah. Oh, and Midnight Bomber is confirming that in the single player, there are 3 portraits. So she does have a final phase, a final form that is not her default Hearthstone portrait. So yeah, it would have been really nice, I think, if they had included all of the hero skins that they had used in the single player as part of the class bundle. But I mean, in terms of rewards for playing through the actual single player, in this case, I do actually like really believe that the experience and the lore in there is worth your time, especially if you aren't familiar with the RTSs or if you aren't familiar with the backstories to some of these characters. I think it's absolutely worth your time because they did a very good job on that section of it. So
if you're
even though there's no reward, if you're interested, but I think it's worth your time.
I don't think it's going to make you a Warcraft lore fan if you're not already interested in Warcraft lore, but if you're even a little bit, if you're just like, I wonder what Jaina's backstory is. This does a
who actually is Jaina?
Yeah, surprisingly good job. So anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this week's Hearthstone news. Before we get into Battlegrounds, though, we have a sponsor to thank today, and we will see you on the other side. Just wanted to take a quick minute and thank today's sponsor, Harry's, and new U.S. customers can redeem a trial offer of Harry's new Sharper Blades just by going to harrys.com/TAC. That's right, Harry's just came out with their sharpest blades ever. And unlike some other razor companies, they're not charging you more for their products' improvements. Harry's new Sharper Blades are still as low as $2 each. I have been going ham on my face, y'all. If you've ever seen pictures of me on my Twitter or my Instagram or watched the live stream, you know that for a very long time I had a beard. Well, this summer in Florida got particularly hot, and also we're wearing masks right now, and I just can't take it anymore. It's too itchy. So I just declared war on my beard, and I have been shaving close constantly now. I've really been putting my Harry's razors through the ringer. I was already happy with them before, keeping my neck beard in line, but now they're working so much harder on my entire face. So you should go check them out, because I am not particularly good at shaving. I haven't been doing it for a very long time, but now I'm doing it almost every day, and it's so smooth. It's not yanking my hair out. It works great. And you can give Harry's Sharpest Blade a try. Harry's has an amazing offer for listeners of TAC. New U.S. customers, you can redeem a Harry's trial set at harrys.com/TAC. You're going to get a 5-blade razor featuring their new sharper blades, a weighted handle, foaming shave gel with aloe. It smells amazing, by the way. Big fan of their shave gel. And you're also going to get a travel cover to protect your blade when you're on the go. You get all of this. Just go to harrys.com/TAC and redeem your trial offer today. We thank them for their support, and we thank you for supporting the companies that support the Angry Chicken.
Have a good battle, friend.
Back to Battlegrounds, and back out of Battlegrounds if you are Micro Mummy. Micro Mummy just can't stop throwing a monkey wrench into the tavern, Joss.
Yeah, I mean, so solo Micro Mummies are fine. It's golden Micro Mummies that are still broken. And you can get triples through Xeris still.
What? I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, actually, it was Hadija actually who tweeted out, and they said that essentially off a shifter, it gave 3, I guess, and they were using 2 on board already, bought another shifter, it became a Micro Mummy, and kaboom.
Well, Micro Mummy's back out of the game.
Yeah, no, even with Micro Mummy out of the game, like, this is multiple shifters were purchased, Garrett.
So shifter
this
can...
is a crazy fun game. Shifter can still shift into Micro Mummy, apparently.
Okay, fair,
yeah.
Fair. So, I mean, good on you if you're intentionally trying to crash your own game. Way to play yourself.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a real shame because, boy, I like Micro Mummy a lot. I was playing again after the patch went live and Micro Mummy was reintroduced. By the way, the patch that we were talking about last week did bring it in, and it wasn't as big as it initially looked. They said that there was some kind of issue with just the way it was like reading on the downloader. It wasn't actually over a gigabyte in size. So there's that. It wasn't until the next day, so Thursday of last week, that they actually like flipped the switch back on Micro Mummy. And I was playing, and I got to play a few more games and actually draft Micro Mummy. And I had our Discord open in real time and was getting news that it was still a problem. So once again, I was like, oh, cool. Well, I'm just going to stick on 1 or 2 Micro Mummies and not triple intentionally. And it is such a solid minion. So please, I cannot wait for them to fix this darn thing.
Yeah, I think it was a good addition. I'm glad that they did it. I think it's much better than oh my god, Mekaru.
Mekaru, unless you're Lich King, who has fallen.
Ah, interesting. Who has unseated the Lich King as the royalty of the Battlegrounds? Who has claimed his crown?
To borrow a phrase that made me want to die inside from Ridiculous Hat, J-Bar.
Gross.
Not as good as the Angry Quicken, I gotta say.
Yeah.
But, Jandis is on top of the 7,600 MMR like average placement over on HS Replay. So this is the top 20% of the player base, 7,600 MMR and up, which is what I always like to look at. I like to see what seasoned players of Battlegrounds are doing and what their meta looks like, because it tends to move things around just a little bit. So Jandis is on top, has taken first place with Maiev coming in second. So Jandis and Maiev, again, if you're looking at the top 20%, are the only 2 heroes at the moment that are over a 4 average placement, an average placement of 4. So Jandis is sitting at a 3.6 and Maev at a 3.8 when I checked this morning when I wrote up notes for this show. And then Lich King is at a 4 on the dot. Lich King has actually fallen out of an above 4 average placement, which Lich King has been sitting at basically since his buff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I've had a chance to play all these heroes now. I did try Jandis, and I think they're still okay. And we have an email in a second talking about a very specific Jandis comp, but I like her. I think she's cool, and I don't necessarily think that you have to play it with the broken comp, but there definitely is a broken comp that exists. But I think she's fun. I think she's fine. And I've played a lot more with Maev recently as well. I'm still not very good with Maev, but I'm trying.
I love Maev. I don't think I've finished lower than 4th with Maev since like maybe her first week of introduction when I just had no freaking clue what I was doing.
I've been tanking my Battlegrounds rank quite a lot, actually. And I don't know if that's everyone else getting better or me getting worse or me not paying enough attention or what, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm still, my playtime is down a little bit. F it. I'm in a master's program, everybody. My hours have gotten a little weird. I haven't talked about it publicly. I'm going to get a master's, and so my hours have gotten even more strained. So I was on a mission to catch my Smurf account up with my main account, and my Smurf account is now just stuck up and down, 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 and I am not catching my main account. So it's just kind of where I'm sitting. So I'm just trying to learn again, and I'm noticing mistakes. Like I'm noticing myself choking when I do well. As a matter of fact, like when I find too many good things and I'm getting multiple triples in a turn, and I'm just like, crap. I just need to play faster but more accurately. So that's
yeah, I find I run out of time a lot. And I wonder if that's because Battlegrounds just in general has gotten more complicated with the randomized minion pool. Like, so basically with one tribe not being there, there's just so many more combinations to kind of remember. Is like, if I'm in this specific lobby, with this and without that, then what is the actual best tribe? And as much as like HS replay would really help when I was like first trying to learn how to play Battlegrounds, it's like, well, this hero that you just chose is best with beasts. And I'm like, there's no beast in my lobby. What next? So yeah, it's a lot of fun and it's very interesting, but there's just so many different iterations on things now that I feel like I have, because I don't play Battlegrounds and Battlegrounds exclusively. I've definitely, fallen off in my knowledge compared to everybody else.
Yeah. To me, I think a big part of that is Menagerie being competitively viable. Because like you have to constantly be considering, wait, do I shift Menagerie? I mean, obviously there's a point in the game where that is no longer good to go. Oh my God, Joss, I was so salty, by the way. I actually got like a golden brand Reno game earlier and Murlocs wasn't panning out, but I had a decent just overall Menagerie comp and I still like got completely stomped. It's just like, oh, come
by
on.
Murlocs or by
I got out Menageried. But they were Murloc leaning Menagerie, so they just outpoisoned me. And I was so salty because I've been trying to get the golden brand Reno for a while, and I finally had a chance today, as a matter of fact, and ended in 4th place, and I was so mad because it was going so well. I had such big booties on my guys. It's a shame. Oh, it was a real shame.
Poor poison.
Yeah, but that was not. There's a game that I didn't see any obvious misplays, so I can only be so mad. Sometimes the other player just has a better board.
Yeah, sometimes you just get poisonous Murlocked.
At least we're not getting poisonous Divine Shield Murlocked, unless you found all the Amalgadons. And at that point, you deserve to win. I'm just gonna give it to you.
At that
Congratulations,
point.
You got lucky. And if I'm seeing that, it's probably 1st versus 2nd place fight because you needed that long to find all the Amalgadons. So I'll take my 2nd place and move on. But yeah, overall, still really enjoying this Battlegrounds meta. I was getting kind of unlucky with my hero offerings, and like right before the show, Joss, I got a Lich King game and got first place. I assembled the quintessential beast board. It was delightful. I think this is the first game since Mama Bear moved down to tier 5 that I actually pulled off like the Macaw Goldrin comp.
Oh, I keep trying to do that and I keep failing at it so spectacularly. And then so the next time Beast is in my lobby, I'm like, I'm just not going to do it. And then, of course, I get absolutely wrecked by Macaw and Spawn, and then eventually Goldrin, and I'm just like, man,
you gotta.
Why can everyone else do it and I can't?
my new strategy for that has been to not chase it. I don't pick up pieces of it until I have the Goldrin. Once I find the Goldrin, then I start looking for the Macaw and so on and so forth.
So I'm doing it backwards.
I used to pick up the Macaw and hope, and it just never came. And then I was just like 3 gold just completely wasted on something I'm never going to use. And although in this case I did have a golden righteous, what's the 2-1 that gives, is it Righteous Protector or is that the 1-1 with Divine Shield? Who gives Divine Shield and Death Rattle? I always forget those. There's Selfless Protector.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a golden one of those, so I actually could have used an earlier Macaw, but I still was like, nope, I'm Arthas already. I can already get double quad Divine Shields because of my hero power. I don't need the Macaw. I'm going to put my gold elsewhere, and it totally paid off. Also, it was Arthas. Like, no one wants to hear my Lich King win story, so I'm sorry I just shared it with you. But nestling in, so first place is Jandis, second place is Maya, third place is Lich King. Nestling in just beneath Lich King is Forest Warden Omu, holding strong after a good first like 24 hours of statistics last week. Omu's strong as we kind of expected, as it looked like was trending in the first day of play last week. You just have so much freedom leveling, you know. And also I'm seeing something I don't typically see when I go and look up stats on HSC Replay, which is like tavern tier up turn diversity. Like the turn that you actually tavern up is diverse. Like the turns that it's happening on Omu, and yet the average placement is within a few points of each other. Taverning up to tier 3, most heroes you want to do it on turn 5. Omu, it is almost evenly split between tier 4 or turn 4 and turn 5. So a turn earlier, because of the extra gold that you're getting from Omu's hero power, you're going to get that 2 extra gold when you tavern up.
Right.
And then turn 5 is, or tier 5 is insane. It is almost evenly split between 3 turns, 7, 8, and 9, which like I don't think I've ever seen that on a hero before.
Right. From stats from high level players.
Yeah.
And I think that with him specifically, because you do have more freedom with when you're actually going to level, it's like you can make the decision based on what Bob is offering you, which you don't often get to do, and also feel like you're going to survive. Like if you're given total trash as most other heroes, then you're like, oh, well, I have to take the trash because I can't afford to level yet. I'm going to get my butt kicked. But because you get the bonus for leveling with Omu, then you can kind of keep yourself alive while leveling a little bit earlier. So, and I mean, that's the style of play that I love. I very much like, I mean, we talked Alexstrasza to death, but I like to try to get to higher levels faster. So I am very much a turn 7 tier 5 Omu player.
Did you see my tweet this week?
I did not. Why? What did you say?
I've only had 1 8th place finish this week, Jocelyn, and guess what hero it was on?
You just don't know what you're doing.
Oh, no, I do.
She is a goddess.
I do. I think you, I'm going to say it. I'm throwing shade. I think you just get really lucky when you play Alexstrasza.
Well, I do have horseshoes up my butt, don't you?
That's what I'm doing wrong. The butt horseshoes.
Exactly. Butt horseshoes.
Which brings me to today's second sponsor, Butt Horseshoes. Get yours at butthorseshoes.com/TAC.
Do not go to that URL. We do not know what is lurking behind that one.
It's actually just a phrase that it's a protest. Butt horseshoes. One T, Jocelyn.
1 T, not 2.
1 T, not 2. Yeah, Alexstrasza does not work for me. I did not see a single gambler in that game, and Pirates were in the draft. Not one. Not one. So
Yeah,
I could not
I think
deploy Slissa's strategy.
it's not necessarily my luck. It's your like terrible luck.
The draft was
I usually get half decent dragons that I can make something out of.
yeah.
Like not Caligos every time.
I got two of the Bronze Wardens, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then literally the next matchup, the guy had Caligos and big dragons already. And I was like, oh, and I've got two 2/2s with Divine Shield. Oh, isn't that such a great use of my hero power?
Oh, I love you. You have a bad lobby where another player got ridiculously lucky,
So
and somehow that's Alex Straza's fault.
It is, because if I was someone else, I would have actually gotten consistent value over the entire game of it, or it would have been Reno, and I would have gotten guaranteed huge value on one minion. Whereas it's Alex Straza, where you're most likely to just get shit value late in the game. So, in case anyone was wondering why I didn't get on the puzzle box of Yogg-Saron hate wagon earlier in the show, I was saving it to shit all over Alex Straza, the hero that I think from this moment on, I will never pick again.
That's okay. I will pick her every time, and it will average out.
Here is my tip. Here's my hot Battlegrounds tip this week. Pick Galacrond over Alex Straza.
Get out.
I will, because I picked Alex Straza and I got 8th place, so I'm being forcibly removed from the lobby.
Wow.
That's what's
wow.
happening. Oh, shade. But anyway, I like the way that the meta has been shaken up by these new heroes. I like it quite a bit. I share your thoughts about Jandis, where at least at the moment, it doesn't feel too bad. Because I'm seeing her picked out in lobbies with no mechs. I'm seeing her picked in lobbies with mechs and getting unlucky and not finding the pogo hopper, but still doing interesting things with the hero power and kind of making it work.
I'm interested to see what it looks like once the like the tavern pass restriction is over, because right now these heroes are still in early access, right? They haven't opened up to everybody.
I mean, it doesn't feel like it. There's a Jandis in like every lobby for me. It feels
yeah,
like
that's kind of the thing, right? Is that we're still seeing quite a lot of her, because it feels like at this point in the expansion, most people probably have the tavern pass. But I'm definitely seeing her, almost every time. And, even the lobbies that I haven't seen her doesn't necessarily have to do with Tavern Pass. It could just be no one was offered her. But either way, it will be interesting to see what happens once it opens up to everyone, and if that kind of impacts her numbers at all, or if it seems more or less broken, or yeah, but we'll have to see. But it's still, I think you're right. Even when pogos are off the table, there's still some really interesting and cool things that you can do with her hero power. So should we take our emails and talk a little bit about Jandis and pogos?
Let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and find the bumper I did not have ready or queued up and do this.
Sorry.
Hello.
Hello, it's me.
Hello.
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails to tacpodcast@gmail.com. If you're a patron, drop us a question in the patron Discord. Skip the inbox entirely. Is it I-Avion or L_Avian?
It could be either or, because I'm just realizing now I assumed it was L and that it was French, and it was like l'avion, like an airplane.
Oh, I like that way better. I'm going to say l'avion. Writes in and says, what would an appropriate nerf, if one is needed, be to Jandis and pogos?
It's the most straightforward Jandis pogos question ever. But yeah, so I think just kind of across Reddit over the last week, there have been post after post after post, and our Discord is also not immune to the, hey, look at the size of my pogos. And they're anywhere from 150 all the way up to 200 and 300. And a lot of it has to do with Jandis and her hero power and her ability to swap minions so she can keep buying pogos over and over and over again, and they get pretty huge. So Garrett, is this is her kind of like super duper broken comp? Are we worried about this super duper broken comp?
A little bit, yes. A little bit. I mean, it's oppressive in a non-Murloc lobby that can't like load up on poison, right?
Well, yeah, the thing is you're still you can still poison with beasts, and you're always guaranteed to have either Murlocs or beasts available. Like there is always going to be a poison in a lobby, but you're giving up. If you're using my Exna, you are waiting longer and potentially giving up slots on your board that would otherwise be used for your game strategy. You're giving those up in order to put something poisonous on the board. Whereas if you're Murlocs, you're just continuing the strategy you're doing anyway, and making them better by making them poisonous as well, right?
Well, and there's also the flex. Even if you weren't Murlocs, maybe you find an Amalgadon, but you pick up a Toxfin. There's a roundabout way. Like everyone has a poison out. When Murlocs are in the lobby, everyone does everyone technically does with Beast, but that not only are you waiting longer, it's a tier 6 minion and therefore the smallest minion pool of all of the tiers.
Yes. Which also the Amalgadon dude, he's a 6 as well, right?
Yes. And could inherently get poisoned himself. But in case you're wondering how lucky I've been getting, I'm thinking about Toxfinning my Amalgadons right now. So that should tell you how my Amalgadons have been doing for me.
I get the plants all the time.
Yep. It's the always huffer of Battlegrounds. Amalgadon is always plants.
Always plants.
Always plants.
But yeah, so I think that because there's always poison available in one way or another, and I think I was saying this in our Discord too, is I wonder if changing the tier of my Exna is more in line, like maybe she should be a 5 instead of a 6. Because that's just, I feel like maybe a change that's healthier than changing or like removing Pogos, changing Pogos, messing with her hero power. Because I agree too that with what you said before about Jandis, that there are some really cool things you can do that don't revolve around Pogos. And I don't really want that to go away. And I also think like Pogos are not something that has been super oppressive. I think the only other time that we've seen Pogos really in the limelight has been around Bran. And so it's not like they've been around and super duper crazy for the length of Battlegrounds. Like they are pretty niche. So yes, these two situations come together to create something that's super duper powerful. But I don't know if I necessarily want to see that change. I like that she has a super powerful way to play, if that makes sense.
Yes. And it's not entirely unbeatable, but there are a lot of scenarios where it's very, very difficult to beat.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it happens for her very early. And I think that's maybe the other piece is that she can have, 50, 60, 70 health and attack on her Pogos when everybody else in the lobby, it feels pretty good about, their 2020 gold grubber. So yeah. I think maybe like she is able to kind of ramp into it very quickly. And again, with Pogos, I don't want to see Pogos like move to a crazy tier because of one specific hero. And I think Infrarogue in the chat room is making a good point that I agree with, is that the Pogos are very, very similar to the neutral minions when Tyrion was playable. Because nobody else is really competing with her. Again, Pogos did see some play in Bran builds, but it's like, that's a very specific scenario where you've got not only a Jandis, but also a Bran, and it's a lobby with mechs, and then she has some competition. In every other scenario, then she has no competition for those minions. So you have to become really unlucky in order to, not find Pogos, which I think I've played 2 Jandis games and not found Pogos. So there's my bad luck. All my good luck I get on Dragons and Alexstrasza. But finding Pogos on Jandis is not a thing I can do, apparently. It definitely happens.
Yeah, I only had the one Jandis game last week and I found Pogos too late.
Yeah, so it can happen that she can just get bad lobbies, get bad drafts from Bob, but when you don't have any other heroes competing for that, it's not quite the same as most other heroes when they're going for, say, just the most powerful popular minions. Like if just everybody in your lobby is going for beasts, like that's, potentially 4 to 6 other people you got to compete with to get a good beast comp. Whereas for her, she's like, oh, better hope Bran's not here, and then, or maybe people hate draft. I don't know.
I think it's going to be a problem. In all, if I'm being realistic, I think it's gonna be a problem. Right now, me as just a player, I'm enjoying Pogo's being meta. Like it's meta for one hero, but like Pogo, that's nuts. That's kind of rad and awesome. But in the long run, I do think it's going to become a problem. I think it's going to be too oppressive for too long. It's figured out. It's not particularly hard to pull off. So yeah.
Do you think maybe it's a keep the buffs problem?
No, because that's what makes it so cool for everything else besides Pogo. It's oppressive in Pogo. It's interesting in every other case scenario, basically. And so, I don't want this now. Maybe in 3 weeks. Maybe in 3 weeks. Yeah. I think you just take Pogos out. I think Jandis is more interesting than Pogos are important.
Yeah, I can see that. And we have had Pogos since the very start of the game as well. So
yes. So there is that.
I just love Pogos.
It pains me to say because I love them as a meme. Like they were like the meme build until Janice got here. Now they're cool. And so the Pogo hipsters of the world go, well, damn it. I liked these before they were cool.
Yeah. I was trying to make them work way back in January.
Does feel like.
By the way, we're coming up on like a year of Battlegrounds, by the way.
Well, it's 2020, so it feels like 5 years of Battlegrounds, but still.
Right.
It checks out. That checks out.
And also 5 days at the same time. Like how? Yeah. But that's how it works.
Yep. Well, Lavion, thank you for your question. Joss, who is our final question from tonight?
Our second question comes from Based Inc., who says, which of the new Battlegrounds heroes are you most excited to try out? And does anyone have any ideas for the flavor of elementals that they think might be added to Battlegrounds? Or do you think that they will keep, if you played an elemental last turn, flavor that is currently being used in Constructed? So, this question obviously came in a little while ago because now we've tried all of the heroes. So, And I still I really, really like, even though he's the worst of the three, I love Barov. I love the gambling. I think that's so cool. I wish, even though it would have absolutely no impact on my gameplay, I wish that you could just stay in a lobby afterwards and just sit there and just keep betting. I just want to spectate the lobby and just bet.
They should add that into just Battleground Spectator. You're spectating your friend? Right? Practice Barov.
Bet if they'll win. Yeah, practice Barov.
Practice Barov. Yeah, I actually had my first game this week where I skipped Barov because like Daryl, I just wasn't in the mood.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to think this hard. I'm going to play Millhouse instead.
Yeah, he definitely does make you think.
And but I'm with you. I think he's still my favorite hero at the moment, but I have to be in the right frame
in the right place.
Mind. Yeah. There's times where I log on the Battlegrounds. I'm like, I just want to play Battlegrounds. I don't care what I'm playing. I just want to have fun, have a good time, see if I can get super lucky. Daryl comes up, is like, nope, I'm gonna go take I don't know, Akazam I guess. Why not? Pick some secrets and hope for the best. And go over to HS Replay and see not enough data when I try to see how he's performing. But yeah, Base Think, as far as elementals, we've been mentioning elementals, we've been mentioning totems. Personally, I'd like to see totems because I just think they're weird, and I'd love to see how they would make them work in Battlegrounds. But also, I think elementals are weird in a Battleground sense. I think played an elemental last turn is really strange in Battlegrounds.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of thing that works a whole lot better than what we thought might, or like what we were struggling to figure out how they would do with dragons. Because dragons, we thought a lot of constructed mechanics with dragons where if you're holding it in your hand, and we're like, well, Battlegrounds, you don't hold anything. So that seems a little bit backwards. But with elementals and playing them last turn, that's something that they probably could make use of. It's still a little bit janky, but it might be kind of cool to see some sort of like flow or consequence to stuff that you did in a previous buy phase. Have something like have an impact on later turns. Like I kind of like this. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, that would be totally unique and introduce a new way to play in Battlegrounds than what we currently have.
Yeah, it's just that I don't think it's conducive to a game like this because in Constructed, it makes sense because more often than not, a board space is going to get cleared up if you are ever even board capped to begin with. And so you're just kind of incentivized to fill the void, play another minion. So an on-play effect like that on an elemental makes a lot of sense. But in Battlegrounds, you are at a certain point in the game, like everyone's board locked for the most part, unless you're weird and you're like Pyramid, or you too many things happen and you misplayed and you enter your next matchup 6v7 on your board. And so in that way, it seems strange to me. If they did want to do it, I was thinking, because I read ahead on this one, I cheated a little bit based think. I read your question ahead of time, and I was thinking that if you wanted to retain a bit of the identity of elementals as they exist, and have at least some of them have, if you played an elemental last turn type thing, I think you need to like have an elemental that like you either need elementals with good battle cries that are like lower in the tiers, so they're a little more ubiquitous and you can find, and somehow are designed to have value kind of across the entire game, because it's something you like want to buy, you want to play, and then you want to probably discard to make room for a better elemental with a, if you played an elemental last turn type effect.
Yeah, which is starting to sound more and more like Murlocs.
Well, yeah, to a certain degree.
Buying, playing with a good battle cry, selling so that you can potentially find it again, and making room for better things. Like,
yeah, and the other thing
sounds like a Murloc play style to me.
That's kind of where my brain was going when I was thinking about this. Was like, how do you differentiate this from other
tribes, minion types? Yeah.
Because I was also thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna want to play a mini, or if elementals work like they do in constructing, I'm going to want to have to play them, even if in scenarios where I may not otherwise want to play them, just so I keep the elemental chain going. And it's like, how can you incentivize that? And like one way Pirates does it is there are certain pirates that manipulate your economy, like Hogger, just by existing on board. And
Pirates, I feel like because of their flavor and having to do with like gold and booty and treasure and all that kind of stuff, it makes sense that they would interact directly with your gold. That flavor makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know what the equivalent in terms of elementals is. Like, I don't know.
I'm personally, and this is getting away from the traditional way that elementals work. I'm personally like waiting for something that manipulates your hero power, but it would be difficult to design around that because we also have passive hero powers or one-time use hero powers. But at the same time, this is an entire chunk of the game of Battlegrounds that minions really that don't play into. Hero powers play in the minions, but minions don't play into hero powers.
One thing that we haven't actually seen very much, or if any, would be like the freeze mechanic. Like we have freezing in our buy phase, but we have no freezing in our combat. So like, I think it would be kind of interesting if you got some sort of a like freeze or stun mechanic where it's like, if I attack in with an elemental and again, this is getting way away from where it is in constructed, but if I attacked in with an elemental, like a water elemental, it's like it freezes everything it damages, and then that minion misses its attack. And that so as you're going through,
Joss, that's really cool.
Yeah. So then it would miss its attack. You would just move to the next thing in line and that would attack instead. And then, you could potentially disrupt like your opponent's order. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, it could be based on attack. You could have something that works kind of like the red whelp, where like at beginning of combat, randomly freeze one enemy
shoots
minion.
Lightning or something. Yeah. And stuns the minion. And
combat freeze mechanics, that is pretty cool and makes sense and is not currently being done. I mean, that could just also be like
out of
that could be
elementals.
Like one of the elementals, but who knows?
Well, like water elemental, I think would be a really good one that doesn't really have any interactions. Like you don't have any thing that you have to do to activate them or anything. It's a 3/6 that when you play it and it attacks something that it freezes. Like it's already in the game. I think you could just throw that one straight into Battlegrounds. And I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah. Chat room's bringing up AoE. It'd be interesting because we have Ghoul, and that's kind of it. What if there was AoE that was only to your opponent's board? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
One damage to only your enemy's minions.
Healing's also being brought up, and I feel like healing is maybe something I want to see out of totems. And I know that this question is specifically about elementals, but I feel like if we are having this conversation, then, you know, future minion tribes, totems are on that list. And I think I'd like to see, maybe not specifically like healing totem, like from the shaman hero power, the basic healing totem, but something along those lines. Just that so many of the totems, like you said, Garrett, have 0 attack, and totems just end up in weird places. But having a minion that healed somehow would be really cool.
Yeah.
Like, do you do that like after each attack? Like,
I mean,
heal a random minion.
it would. I think it would be exclusive to one or a handful of totems. You know, for workshopping this, I don't think you would put healing on every single one of them. It's not. You know, just because it could be a part of the minion type doesn't mean it would be on every single minion within the tribe,
no,
right?
sorry. No, I meant like a couple of the minions.
Yeah.
Same as like if elementals did for some reason do freezing or stunning or whatever you want to call it, then I wouldn't expect every elemental to have that power.
It would be,
you know,
cool if it was like on attack, so you could place it at a certain point in your warband. Like, so if you had like, say they had like a Battlegrounds version of Healing Totem, so it's not like a 0-2, say it's like a 1-3, 1-4, whatever stats are worth putting in at the tier that it exists. On attack, it heals your board for 2. So you don't want it in the first spot because it's going to attack first and there's going to be no damage done to your board. But maybe you try
don't
the second
necessarily
spot.
want it at the end because that might be too long and then there's no minions left to heal.
Something like that could be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it'd be good or not, but that would be very interesting. And I don't think we can let it heal heroes. I think it can only heal boards.
No. And I really don't want to get into healing heroes. I think Battlegrounds matches right now seem to be a good length for me. I don't necessarily want them to go on longer, which is exactly what would happen if we start being able to heal. So I'm down with no healing and no hero healing in Battlegrounds, but I think minion healing is really, really interesting because we haven't seen healing yet. We've seen like buffing, like with pirates, like, oh, when your pirates attack, then give +1/+1 to everything sort of deal.
Yeah.
Which is almost like a heal. But I would like to see something that was, just a straight up heal that had a cap on it, because sometimes the buffing can get crazy, right? But if you're healing, then, you know, there has to be that damage to exist first, which I think becomes a little bit easier to balance.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see, because those are the only 2 minion types that aren't represented at the moment, unless I'm forgetting anything, and I don't believe that I am.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
We're kind of at the point now where that might be it, unless we get a totally new minion type in Battlegrounds that's just Battleground specific. Like maybe we get ninjas.
We need them.
Or ogres, or, you know, there's lots of potential ways that they could go with minion types outside of what we've gotten constructed.
Yep. Well, thanks for the question, Base Think. This is a fun one to chew on. I want totems. I want them bad. So thank you, everybody, for your emails, for your questions. Keep them coming. tacpodcast@gmail.com. If you're a patron, drop a question in the patron Discord. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. If you want to support this podcast, y'all, and we would really appreciate it if you did, head on over to patreon.com/TAC. You know, whatever works for you, $1, $2, it all helps, especially when we have a critical mass like we do of the fine supporters over there. And thank you so much, everybody, for sticking around. It's been a weird year, and so it really means the world to us that you're supporting our show. It helps us put time in and put on events like the Angriest Chicken Open Battlegrounds, coming to you at the end of next week. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. So go check it out. Patreon.com/TAC. Go sign up for the tournament. Get access to our Discord. Get an ad-free version of the feed. All kinds of perks for you. And speaking of our fine patrons, we want to thank our producers, Declan H., Cheesy Bob, and Lord of the Cup. Thank you for your generous support. If you want to become a producer, Patreon will let you do that. Other than that, check out amove.tv for the whole back catalog of episodes. Or just go to theangrychicken.com. It'll take you directly to just the feed for TAC. And keep an eye out for that for when invites go completely open for Taco Battlegrounds. But before we go and wrap it up for episode 383 of The Angry Chicken, Jocelyn, you do all sorts of other awesome content. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays. And this week, I'm going to direct you guys over to the Gamers Inn because we just today had the PlayStation 5 announcements. We have so much to talk about. It's going to be Xbox, PlayStation, put up your dukes. Who's going to win the console war? Gamers Inn. We're going to talk about it all.
Nintendo already did, is the answer.
Fair enough. Nintendo's such a weird thing because it's like, is it last gen? Is it next gen? It's Nintendo just is its own gen. It's just off doing its own thing.
Nintendo, I really think, like, as someone who really dumped on them during the Wii U,
everyone did.
They're geniuses.
I said they should never ever make hardware again.
I mean, they were geniuses during the Wii. During the Wii, they rejected the reality of the console wars and substituted their own, and they managed to do it again with the Switch. They have actually bottled lightning twice.
Yeah.
Good job on them.
I love my Switch.
Listen, my dream was always to have every console when I was growing up. And so when I was an adult with any money at all, the first thing I did was go out and complete the consoles that were missing from my collection. So I will probably eventually pick up all of the consoles, but I'm going to pick up the PS5 first because I love Naughty Dog games, and that's just what it boils down to. And frankly, in Microsoft's corner, they are being pro-gamer enough to have basically all of their exclusives playable on PC. So,
yeah, which is great for PC players. But that's kind of my argument of why I might not necessarily want an Xbox is I'm like, well, I can play it on my PC anyways. And then, PlayStation, I'm waiting for the collector's edition for Horizon because greatest game of all time, and I'm sure they're going to make a PS5 Horizon version, so that's what I'm holding out for.
They're just, and also Microsoft seems like they're completely okay with you having that feeling of, just play your games on PC, because that's how they're advertising it. They're like, we're let on PC. I'm just sitting here going, so this is an event for your new console. And
you're telling me to play on PC.
This seems like a bad strategy. I'm very happy about it because I would rather play Microsoft games on my Windows PC that's beefier than any console I can go out and buy. But at the same time, it's a head scratcher for sure. I think I'm just landing on, I think this is pretty good for us, the players of games overall.
Yes.
That's where I'm landing.
So if you guys want to hear me talk more about the upcoming next gen consoles that are releasing in November, again, go check out Gamers Inn.
Yeah, check it out. Folks, this show and every other freaking podcast that I produce myself is over at amove.tv. So go check it out. Get into the Nexus for all of your Heroes of the Storm needs. And we just put up a brand new episode of WoW Killer this morning where we talked about Afterlives, Ardenweald, the one where Garrett apparently had no soul because I didn't cry, and I feel like I was the only one who didn't.
What?
I was one of the people that was confused and was just like, wait, is the queen duping him? And my brain just couldn't exit that particular train of thought until it was all over. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, no, the queen was a good person. Oh, that was sad, but it's already over, and now I've moved on with my life.
Oh my God, I cried from the start to finish. I still can't watch it, Garrett. I start watching it and I'm like, I can't. I just start tears instant. I can't do it.
Also, if I'm being cold and callous, Ursak isn't that important of a character.
We said we were going to do a quick show tonight, so I am not going to go down that rabbit hole, but Garrett,
tweet at me. At me, Joss. No one else is allowed to. You're allowed to at me. You're allowed to at me. That's going to wrap it up for the show, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed these mini podcasts that happened in the outro. Right? Until next time, job is done.
Job's done.
This is a long day, and we didn't start on time because of technical difficulty, so I was even more stressed out. That episode was fun as shit. And thank you, chat room, for hanging.
So we're going to call it butt horseshoes?
We are now.
I feel like there was another there's something in the Jandis talk.
As long as it isn't horseshoes and butt grenades.
No. I just can't remember what the actual good title was that I thought of. I should have put it in there.
Nice. Nice. All right. I'm going to go check on the status of dinner before I decide if I'm posting or just running and eating.
Okay.
So yeah, chat room, you've been awesome.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
Yeah, we're wrapping a little later than we meant to because of Discord being stupid.
Yeah, I'm glad it held out. That was such a weird problem.
It was. Oh my god, y'all, we went and tried Skype. It
was so bad.
Infinitely worse than your worst nightmares. It had inherent white noise in its own connection. We both muted our mics, and there was still white noise coming out of Skype. On top of the fact that
so
Joss,
weird.
like, I know everyone's like, oh, Garrett's camera looks so clear compared to everybody else's. That's because everyone that isn't me is coming over a VoIP connection. My camera's being captured locally. But holy shit, over in Skype, Joss's camera looked like it was circa 1999. It was so fuzzy and crappy.
Yeah.
Like, what is Skype doing? Of all of the times to be like completely dropping the ball on the quality of your VoIP service, like the year that Zoom is going to build a country on another planet because of the money they are raking in is not the year to fall asleep
To
on
drop
your
the ball,
flagship
yeah.
VoIP product. What are you doing?
Like, you're already built into Windows. Come on. Like, everybody has you.
Yep. Yeah. It's just, it's the worst. I think at this point in full tinfoil hat, they are purposely sabotaging Skype so people buy Teams subscriptions. I'm like full tinfoil hat at this point. Like, that's it. I think it's an intentional sabotage of their own product. So people are like, oh, well, they've got Teams and that seems to work really well. Let's use that. But we have to pay for it.
Teams isn't that great either.
I personally haven't used it. It's one of the very few I have no experience whatsoever with, but I've got a few friends who actually really like it. But anyways, I'm going to end the stream now and see if I can eat stream. Love y'all. See you later.